Lots of news and commentary, so let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Philippines. Got some news for you to hear today. We're going to talk about some Philippine news, and I may comment on a few other stories around the world that some of you may be aware of, some of you may not be aware of. Anyway, wait. This is from the Sun Star. Wait, what is June 12th again? Some students in Cebu clueless about Independence Day, June 12th. And if you're in the Philippines and you plan on going to immigration, a bank, or some other government agency today, you're out of luck because I'm sure virtually all of those will be closed for Independence Day, June 12th. Independence from Spain. Many decades ago, I think they used to use July 4th, independence from the USA. But some time back, they reverted to June 12th, independence from Spanish rule. I've got a few stories coming up, but anyway, on the eve of the 127th Independence Day on Thursday, June 12th, a few students in Cebu were still unsure what the country was supposed to be independent from. And some, it's simply that holiday of flags. Ask them what happened on June 12th, 1898, and you might get blank stares, a nervous laugh, or the classic, Wala ko kabalo, pero feel nako na discuss na. I don't know, but I feel like it was already discussed. Ty May, take May, not her real name, an incoming grade 12 student who told Sunstar Cebu that she knows it's Independence Day today, but as for the actual historical event tied to it, like being a strong, independent woman, not quite accurate. Being a strong, independent woman, that's what Independence Day is about. Yeah. May admitted that she's a bit out of the loop, blaming her lack of knowledge on being a homebody, having limited engagement with technology or historical education. I'm a history major. Always loved history, geography, geology, just all that kind of thing. So, when one of the reasons I'm not invited to parties is I would love to discuss history. Fun fact, Filipinos previously celebrated Independence Day on July 4th, commemorating independence from the United States on July 4th, 1946, right after World War II ended. This marked the end of American colonial rule, which began after the Spanish-American War in 1898, when the U.S. acquired the Philippines from Spain. In 1962, the president then, Macapagal, had a change of heart. He changed the Independence Day celebration from July 4th to June 12th. For you drone operators, this is also from the Sun Star, Davao City enforces no-fly zone near Davao Airport. I think with what we're seeing with drone wars these days, you're going to see more and more restrictions on drones anywhere near government offices, airports. It's going to become more and more restrictive, not just here, around the world as the months and years go by. No doubt, these drones. If you're watching any of what's going on in Ukraine, yeah, it's basically drone war. They attach some type of explosive device to a drone, smaller up to very large, and go at each other. Davao City has issued a fresh reminder to the public to strictly follow air safety regulations around Davao International Airport. And anyway, the government, the federal government here, was talking a year or so ago about changing the laws and restrictions. I haven't heard anything else about that, but I have read a few articles about certain cities have made more restrictions in their areas. Next story, Sunstar also. 65 smuggled vehicles seized in Talisay raid here in Cebu province. This is something I almost never see in my 10 years living here. Rare occasion I'll see a small car hauler, but very rare to see this. But anyway, there's people smuggling anything and everything in the Philippines. Anything from food products to fake handbags to vehicles. And not too long ago, I think they demolished many very high-end vehicles that had been smuggled in. They found them in a warehouse up in the Manila area. In this particular case, resulted in the seizure of 65 right-hand drive vehicles. The vehicles were reportedly smuggled into the country and illegally converted to left-hand drive. My understanding is generally like these vans and multi-cabs and such, that the companies that do that, they don't import the vehicles. In this case, they imported the whole vehicle apparently. They import parts, and they import them as car parts. They chop up and strip down the vans in Japan or wherever they come from. They bring them in here, they put them back together using duct tape and baling wire, is what I've been told by expat friend who bought one of those. He said in the end, yeah, thing almost fell apart, and baling wire was holding the steering mechanism to the gear mechanism that goes down to the wheels. Lucky it didn't come apart while he was driving it. And he made the comment more than once that if he knew then what he knows now, he would have never bought a multi-cab. Very low power, and just problem after problem after problem. He spent more time getting it repaired, trying to put it back together properly. Sunstar Forex rates. The US dollar equals 55.6. That's 10 pesos more per dollar than when I came in 2015 at 40. No, it's not 10. Not quite 10. It was, I think, 48.5 when I came here. So yeah, it had gotten up to 58. It had gotten up to 58 a couple times a few months ago, and was in the 57 range for quite a while, dropped into the 56. Now we're in the 55 range. A number of different reasons for that. More currencies, foreign exchange rates, what your money is worth. Here in the Philippines. Weather, rainy Independence Day due to LPA, low pressure area, Habagat. Habagat is the what they call the southwest, the rainy season here, southwest monsoons. The wind changes from the east and northeast, east to northeast direction, coming from the northeast and east, to primarily coming from the southwest. More warm, humid air coming in, therefore the rain. And almost all areas of the country will experience rains caused by the southwest monsoon. And we'll have this for a few months, and we're kind of going into, in fact, here in 2025, very strange. We still have not had a named storm enter the Philippine area of responsibility, which is a bit of a rectangular box around the Philippines. So very quiet 2025 so far as storms, cyclones, typhoons. No let up. Sunstar, no, PNA, Philippine News Agency, pna.gov. No let up in aid for Habagat hit central Luzon, Mindanao residents. They've had some heavy rains and flooding over the last week or two. And yeah, they stockpile. They have warehouses where they stockpile food and other items for people who are affected by the flooding. And another PNA, Philippines Coast Guard prepares evacuation rescue groups for rainy season. And these kind of pictures and videos you see very often in different parts of the Philippines, places that are subject to flooding time and again. And here it even looks like some of the houses are up on stilts because they're expecting that. Unfortunately, PNA, Philippine News Agency. Travelers urged to observe precautions versus Mpox, monkeypox. It's been in the news, I think, for more than a year when it started occurring in the USA, other parts of North America, South America, Africa. So let's get into the story. I've had a couple people ask me to address this, and there's not enough good information out there. There was information, fake news going around that they were going to start shutting down travel and putting in restrictions like they did during COVID. With more travelers expected to fly for back-to-school session, AirAsia Philippines on Tuesday urged them to observe precautions against Mpox. I'll talk a little more about this. AirAsia Philippines is reminding all passengers to observe proper hygiene amid ongoing health. Travelers are encouraged to wash their hands frequently, practice proper coughing and sneezing etiquette. Why is that? Well, that's good etiquette anytime, but what does it have to do with Mpox? What does it have to do? Proper coughing and sneezing, or use of alcohol-based hand sanitizer, especially upon disembarkation. DOH made this call as it denied information circulating online, claiming a lockdown is in place in the country due to Mpox. In an advisory, the department said it does not see the need to impose a lockdown as Mpox is not airborne. Repeat, Mpox is not airborne. Repeat, Mpox, monkeypox, is not airborne. It is caused by a it is transmitted by close skin-to-skin contact, and usually prolonged contact. There have been a couple deaths, I believe, in the Philippines, but what I have read is those people had HIV and they died of HIV, even though they had Mpox up and above that. And something that is rarely mentioned in these news stories is that the gay community primarily is where the Mpox is transmitted in. Don't know why no one wants to talk about that. There have been stories about barangays, villages within provinces, mandating everybody wear masks again because they don't understand that Mpox is not airborne. It is not airborne. It is skin-to-skin contact. But they, out of an abundance of lack of knowledge about what it is, they mandated everybody to wear face masks in certain areas, is what I have read. And there's so much information out there, some of it not accurate news. So anytime you read something, you have to kind of wade through it and see if it's propaganda, misinformation, or actual news. A little bit about tourism and the tourism situation here in the Philippines. 2023, we had the pandemic, the government lockdowns, travel lockdowns, and absolutely destroyed the economy, people's livelihoods. Many stories from the UN and other places throwing people into poverty and deep poverty. People lost their businesses, their livelihoods. Um, Millions of people left the Philippines. But 2023 was a big recovery year. Recovery year 2023, and they had many millions of less tourists in 2023, but it was an increase from 2022. And here in 2024 actually has had less tourists, and 2025 is having less tourists, is what I have read. 2025 already. Million and a half or more than that less Chinese for a number of reasons. The dispute in the China Sea about territory, the shutting down of the POGOs, Philippine offshore gaming operators, which kicked tens of thousands of them out of the Philippines, even though they may have been here on tourist visas and just overstayed and worked at these places. Many less Koreans. Koreans are the biggest group from any nation, generally, and a lot less Koreans. Well, they've got some political issues going on. Their past president declared martial law at some point in time, I think over a year ago. And so I think he's being on trial right now. He was kicked out. The exchange rate with the Philippine money to Philippine pesos. Same thing is happening in Thailand. Thailand is having a much less tourism this year, 2025, for a number of different reasons. Their tourist makeup from different countries is a little bit different than the Philippines, but they're having, and what I've read is the cost of living around the world, and the exchange rate has changed it, made it not as favorable to visit Thailand. Anyway, one thing about the Philippines is that I think too, and you won't see it in the news too much, but the infrastructure here, I think a lot of tourists have come here, and this article is kind of about that, and the infrastructure just is not keeping up with the situation, and this past year in particular has been a lot of bad news, and people come here and have a bad experience with brownouts in your resort for a whole day or many days, like in Siquijor, weeks I think, Siquijor Island. All that information gets back to the travel booking sites and back to their friends and relatives who might think about visiting these areas. And the infrastructure, especially electrical. Philippines is known for stunning beaches, with Boracay ranked by Travel and Leisure as one of the world's best white sand destinations. Last year, the island attracted just over 2 million tourists. They had an 18-hour power outage May 4th, 2025. "You are destroying our appliances," commented one consumer, while another gave the national grid operator of the Philippines 5 thumbs down. Someone else wrote, "I'll be losing sleep again fanning my kids when their rechargeable fan runs out of battery. Boracay has been experiencing brownouts almost every day." According to the Department of Energy, Boracay does not have its own power plants and depends solely on electricity transmitted via an underwater cable from the mainland. This makes the island especially susceptible to outages caused by transmission line disruptions. And paper I used to read, it would tell us how much electricity was available, primarily in metropolitan Manila, how much was used, and pretty much every day, almost all the electricity being generated was being used. There was a little bit of a oversupply, but not very much. So if something goes down, if a power plant goes down because of needs repairs, maintenance, or something else happens, a cable gets cut or broken through construction. Unfortunately, this was not an isolated incident. On January 2, 2024, Panay Island faced a major blackout that swept across Aklan, Antique, Capiz, Iloilo, and Guimaras. Several power plants went offline, plunging the region into darkness. 4 days without electricity. Crazy. Anyway, it goes on and on and on and on. Siquijor, Surigao, widely known as the surfing capital of Philippines, drew 14,000 visitors in the first half of 2024. But this island haven hasn't been spared from recurring power outages. On May 5th, a transmission line fault forced Surigao Electric Cooperative to implement a nearly hour-long blackout. After another brief outage hit the entire island the next day. And here's something I've been reading. In December, an even bigger energy crisis struck Surigao. The island was left without power for 13 days. 13 days, 2 weeks, after its aging submarine cable failed. So unfortunately, all the people who've had bad experience, all the people who have read the reviews of people who have come and experienced these types of things, are going to have a negative effect on future tourism, no doubt. So the government, the power companies should be way ahead. They should be way ahead of this infrastructure issue, knowing that the Philippines is growing in popularity over the years. But now it looks like that the next few years could be fighting back, another recovery, if you will, from the bad publicity that they're getting from this infrastructure. This is one of a number of infrastructure issues affecting the Philippines. Here's a related story, just came out in the last few hours from Phil Star online. Siquijor, power woe solution out in 6 months. So it's June right now. That means by the end of the year, by 2026. A little late, but anyway, the government aims to come up with a long-term solution to Siquijor's power woes within 6 months. Marcos, the president, visited Siquijor, visited the province to inspect the Siquijor diesel power plant, which is reeling from power outages that have affected residents and the economy. Marcos said 2 power generators from Palawan would be sent to Siquijor as a short-term solution to the problem. 6 months from now, by 2026, we will guarantee that there will be long-term solution to Siquijor's power problem. There will be a solution. Government has to look into fuel supply and develop transmission lines and ensure that generators are working properly. Now that's true. If you have 2 generators, at some point in time, those generators need maintenance. So is one generator going to be down for part of the time? Who knows? Another related story concerning the Mpox, monkeypox. Get tested for HIV, PhilHealth members are urged. And yeah, HIV is quite common, is what I have read here in the Philippines, as are other sexually transmitted diseases. A friend of mine who happened to get gonorrhea, I think, from some girl. His doctor said that there are a lot of Filipino ladies that have gonorrhea. They don't know it because their symptoms are pretty mild, and they just they don't really aren't concerned about it. Apparently, amid the surging cases of HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, PhilHealth is encouraging members to undergo regular HIV testing and seek timely medication. PhilHealth will cover some of the costs of that treatment. That's something new that's gone into their package. The package includes access to antiretroviral therapy, which is a crucial component in HIV management. Do you want a driver's license in the Philippines? Anyway, 32 driving schools penalized over illegal certificates. And yeah, we've talked before about getting a driver's license. If you're a foreigner, I think pretty much your foreign license is good for 90 days, 3 months here in the Philippines. You can drive on that. Of course, the question is, if somebody stops you, will they, unless you have your passport with the last stamp in it, will anybody know when you arrived in the Philippines? I know a lot of people don't carry all that information. They carry maybe a copy of their front page and their last stamp in it. Other people just carry the ACR card, the Alien Certificate of Registration. Among these violations, let's see. Among these violations are the unauthorized issuance of certificates on theoretical and practical driving courses without clients' completion of the required training hours. And what I continue to hear is that many people, there's still a lot of corruption, a lot open corruption. There's corruption all over the world. Here in the Philippines, it's rather open and not uncommon to be approached if you're near a government office. What do you need done, sir? I can take care of that for X number of thousands of pesos. People buying licenses. What I've heard, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 pesos, and they take care of getting you your license in some areas of the Philippines still. There have been a number of officials, LTO, land transportation people, who have been arrested. The officials have been arrested over the last few years because they were involved in that type of thing. Typhoon season. When is typhoon season? I've been doing videos for 9 years. I've done a number of videos on weather, but here in the next several days I'll put another one up. I'll talk about when do the typhoons come, what are the worst months, where do they generally hit, a lot of information on climate and weather in the Philippines. Coming up soon. Up to 3 million boxes of family food packs have been pre-positioned in 938 warehouses nationwide in preparation of typhoons and bad weather, now that the rainy season has started. And we got an LPA spotted off Mindanao. Mindanao, the southernmost large island, very rarely gets hit by a typhoon. You call them hurricanes back in America. Same thing. But you don't need a typhoon. You don't need a typhoon to cause major flooding and destruction and death. For those of you who are still with me, going to be a little bit off topic here. Carnegie Endowment for International Peace found this. There's a number of sites that track protests and riots around the world, and I'm using this one here. The USA recently, they started having protests and riots. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, New York, over immigration enforcement. But the U.S. is a pretty peaceful place generally. I went to college when the Vietnam War was going on. and we had anti-war protests going on, and I've got a anyway. I talked to a lot of people. I lived among a lot of the people who were getting involved in the protests, and there were a certain percentage of people who actually were aware of where Vietnam was, of the issues surrounding the war. I don't know what the percent was, 20, 25%. There was a large number of people, and we didn't have vloggers back then like we do today, where everybody's a vlogger and going to sites and making a lot of money off the videos they do at protests. But there were a lot of people that I met who really didn't know anything about. A number of people told me basically that they went down Mankato, Minnesota. They went down a number of different times, blocked the freeways going through the city, and they told me, "Oh, it felt so powerful, so good to be involved in something where we could shut down a freeway." And they had no idea where Vietnam was, what was going on in Vietnam, whatever you think of Vietnam. And I'm still learning about Vietnam and the whole situation. But anyway, I've got a cousin who has lived in north of San Diego, between San Diego and Los Angeles, and he's been in the news business. In fact, I think he still prints a newspaper, goes out in his little region, and very much so involved. In fact, he was a reporter that went to Vietnam back then, rode along with the Army and the Air Force. But anyway, he made some comments on his site about the people, the looters, and I made a comment. There's certain percentage of those people that you can break them down into several different groups. You have the legit protesters who really, and a lot of those are illegals. Call them undocumented, call them illegals, whatever. They may have come into the country illegally in the last month, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. But they walked across the border. They're there. Some of them have families. They work there. They have income coming in. They may be renting property. They may have been able to buy property through somebody who was legal. Maybe they can even do it if they're illegal, very possibly, by creating false documents. They own cars. They own businesses. They work in businesses. Businesses love them. I just read an article today that the feds raided a I think it was a packing plant, meat slaughter plant up in Nebraska or Iowa, I think. And this is nothing new. They were doing that. They were raiding those plants back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, once a year, something like that. I would read about it, and I know one packing plant in Iowa. I grew up in Minnesota. I lived in Iowa for a while. There was a packing plant. They went in there and they arrested between 200 and 300 of the workers for being illegals. Sent them back to Mexico, and the companies love that. They can pay them a lot less than the citizens that live in the area. Same thing happened in hometown where I lived in Minnesota. It was early on after the Vietnam War. The Lutheran Church, the Catholic Church brought in, and other groups sponsored a lot of refugees from Vietnam, and I have nothing against that. But they started taking over a lot of the jobs, of course, and businesses loved that. They could lower the pay rate in some instances. And then over the years, it was more the Latin America, the Mexicans and Latin American people that come up through there took the jobs. And yeah, I had an aunt that worked in one of the packing plants, and yeah, she said she lost her job to the undocumented, the illegals, and yeah, they dropped the pay rate. Businesses love it. Anyway, yeah, the illegals is nothing new. It's been going on for many decades. Coming back to the Philippines, that it shows one protest here. Philippines protest against Rodrigo Duterte's arrest, March 2025. Yeah, for those who are interested, global protest tracker since 2017. Last updated June 1st, 2025, so pretty recent. In the last 12 months, over 160. Anyway, this channel, some of you might be interested in, is called Agenda Free TV. He is on YouTube, he's on Facebook, Twitch, I think, a number of other sites as well. And this is the guy up here. He's the guy that runs this one-man news show, and he covers things all over the world. And he pays different people and groups for access to their feeds. So there's a number of Filipino of California bloggers driving around, getting involved in all this type of thing, and with YouTube channels, and he will pay them and run their feed wherever he can get information. But he has covered everything from volcanoes and earthquakes to political events, riots like he's doing here. And boy, it goes on and on for hours and hours and hours. So Agenda Free TV, if you're interested. But anyway, we're in a different time than the Vietnam War protests and other protests around the world. We've got vloggers, and I've been following several vloggers in Los Angeles and in Chicago and Dallas, different areas, as well as news channels. AP, NBC, KCAL, ABC, several different, Fox News, just a bunch of them to get different perspectives. Some of them have helicopters are flying around and showing you views from up above. And I just watched a news conference with the mayor of Los Angeles, as well as the sheriff, police chiefs, different people involved there, and they talked about the people that they had been arresting for threats, for bodily injury, for vandalism, all sorts of different things. Anyway, my observation over 5 going on 6 years there, you have let's separate them into several different groups. You have the people who think we should have open borders, just let anybody and everybody come in. Opposite side of the spectrum, you think you should have controlled borders, which the Philippines has. Most countries have to some degree. They let in refugees based on a number of different categories. Are they economic refugees? Are they hunger refugees? Are they war refugees? Anyway, so you have those. You have a lot of, no doubt, illegals protesting. They're here illegally, whether it's been a week, a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years. They've been in the U.S. illegally. Whatever. Some of them are protesting if they don't have jobs. A lot of these people, either they don't have jobs or their company shut down. I've heard interviews with a number of different business owners, carpentry shops, factories of various types, food operations. They said, yeah, half or 2/3 of my employees didn't show up because they're illegals, and they're afraid of being deported. And I can't run my business. I can't ship my product. So that's an issue that's been going on for years and years. The area where I had a house in Phoenix, Arizona, so many years ago, it was pretty well divided ethnically, with Caucasians, the Mexicans, different groups of people living in that area. And I went back after I sold the house. I went back like 10 years later, probably 10, 12 years later, and completely changed. It's virtually 100% Latin, 100% Mexican. Even the signs, all the signs on the stores are in Spanish. I mean, 100%. 100%. Very high crime and pollution on the sidewalks, in the streets. Very heavy police presence all the time. I stayed in a hotel very close to that area. Walked that area. Stayed in two different hotels very near that area that used to be very nice areas. But yeah, it's like living in a different country. That's the U.S. They call it a melting pot, but in many ways it is not really a melting pot. People from different countries want to live around people that are familiar with their culture. Mexicans want to be with Mexicans. And when I worked in L.A. for a couple of years, I learned that the Mexicans didn't like the El Salvadorans from Central America, or the Hondurans. And I knew a guy from El Salvador, and the Mexicans told me, well, we don't like them because they don't speak good English. They don't speak good Spanish. And, and this guy from El Salvador spoke extremely good English, better than almost anybody, even myself, because of that pressure on him. So there's a lot of prejudice. People want to live among their own groups, and you have people from all over the world coming across the border with open borders. And Indians want to live with Indians. People from India, not Native Americans, but Native Americans want to live with Native Americans. Blacks want to be around the various black cultures wherever they came from. Norwegian. I grew up in a town in Minnesota. We had Norwegians, Swedes, and Germans. There was one hill in the town called Norwegian Hill. Most of the Norwegians lived up there. I had some guy many years ago, probably 20 years ago, come up to me at some event when I was dating a girl up there, and said, I still don't trust the Swedes. And I think it had something to do with World War II. He knew who I was. I didn't know who he was. I wasn't gonna get involved in the conversation. But yeah, Germans, they're majority German towns. They're majority Czechoslovakia. They've got up there in the Midwest. There are a number of towns that are primarily Czechoslovakian. When people originally moved there from Europe, different areas, they talk to their family and friends back home. Their family and friends come over. Same thing with the Chinese that come to different parts of America. They don't come just from a broad area of China. The family and friends from a particular area talk to their family and friends back in China, and they're all from that area with the same language, dialect, and such. But let me get back to my point I was trying to make, and then I got off on a tangent. You've got the undocumented, the illegals who are protesting. Of course, they don't want to be deported. You've got a certain percent of vloggers. You've got everybody's up there with their phone, whether they're doing it live feeds on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. They're doing live feeds, and I heard a couple people talking last night on their YouTube channel. They were talking between themselves. How much did you make? I made 400 and something today, 400 and some dollars. Another guy said, oh, I made 700 and some dollars today because of one of these live feeds I did on the protests. So you got, I don't know, what, 10, 20, 30% of these people are vloggers. They're doing online stuff. And then you have spectators. Of course, you have people just going down to see what's going on, getting involved. You have those who are undercover. You have the news people. You've got quite a number of undercover. I've heard a number of reports that we've got undercover people out there, and they're identifying the people doing the vandalism and doing the unlawful things. And you might not be caught today, but in the coming weeks or months, somebody will be knocking on your door. So a lot of undercover people out there. So did I cover it all, or did I miss something? So you got the protesters, you got the illegals protesting, undocumented. You got those who want the open borders protesting. You've got the spectators, you've got the vloggers, you've got the news people, you've got the undercover people, undercover police, law enforcement. Did I miss anything? You got just troublemakers. You've got the looters. Yeah, I did miss. You've got the looters, the opportunists, you've got anarchists, and you just got a certain percentage of just total idiots. Total idiots. So it's a big mix, a very big mix of people. And kudos to all the enforcement people to keep their cool. Boy, that would be difficult. That would be difficult to have people in your face and doing that and not react in some way. So kudos to them. Anyway, I'm going to end this video now, and wherever you are in the world, stay safe, stay healthy, safe travels. I know several of you have sent me emails and notes saying that you're coming to the Philippines this month or next month or later in the year. So good on you. Safe travels. Philippines has generally a very peaceful country. The crime is Filipino on Filipino primarily. Drug-related, criminal-related, political-related. There are families and clans, tribes that protect their territory and their influence over areas. Tourists are pretty much safe. Now, the big deal, as we talked about earlier, is infrastructure. If you're going to be traveling someplace, do your research. Do you have internet access? I had a friend. Where did he go the other day? He went to Camotes Island, part of the Cebu province, and he said no internet. This is 2025. I know. I went in about 2017 for a few days, and from my hotel to get internet, I had to walk up the road a ways, and I would get a weak signal for my phone. But yeah, he said he had no phone signal, no data signal when he was there. It will depend upon where you're at. So here in the last year, some of these islands, I think because of more and more tourists, there's more demand upon the electrical grid and on the internet grid, and it hasn't been holding up, or it's been wearing out and being damaged, something like that. So check out reviews of places on different islands in the last year or so. Don't look at things 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because some of those places don't exist anymore because of Super Typhoon Odette. Anyway, this is getting a bit long, so if you're still out there, a couple of you, maybe, happy Independence Day here in the Philippines, and we'll see you in the next video.